matter and its states. In this lecture, we'll look at the definitions of chemistry and matter. We'll take a look at the states of matter, phase changes associated with those states of matter, chemical and physical properties, and chemical and physical changes. The goals of this lecture will be to define matter, to differentiate between the states of matter, to define chemical and physical properties, and to determine whether a process involves a chemical or a physical change. So what is chemistry? Chemistry is the study of matter, the changes associated with matter, and the energy associated with those changes. Matter is the stuff of the universe. This is anything that has mass and takes up space. We can define matter in terms of three different states: solid, liquid, and gas. A solid is a substance that has a definite shape and a definite volume. So we can see in A here, beaker A, a solid is present in there. A liquid has an indefinite shape, which means it will take the shape of whatever container you put it in. But a liquid does have a definite volume, so the volume is fixed, the shape is not fixed. A gas will have an indefinite shape and an indefinite volume. What that means is the gas will fill the shape and volume of whatever container you place it into. So solids, liquids, and gases, we can describe these in terms of their shape and volume overall. So the states of matter are characterized by shape and volume, and we know that the shape and volume are related to the arrangement of the molecules or atoms that are present in each sample. So in terms of the actual atoms or molecules that are present in the sample, our solids, our atoms are going to be tightly packed. So tightly packed. Because they're tightly packed, they have very little, essentially no compressibility. What that means is the individual atoms or molecules that make up the solid are so close together that you can't push them together any further. And these are often very organized structures. In terms of the liquids, the molecules are going to be associated with one another, but they're not necessarily as packed as the solids. So there's a little wiggle room between the molecules here. Liquids will have little compressibility. So you can't push them much closer together, but you can push them a little bit close together. And when we're talking about compressibility, we're talking about what happens to the molecules if you really increase the pressure of the container that they're in. Liquids are organized, but they're not as organized as solids. And then we have gases. In gases, the atoms or molecules, they're going to behave as if they're the only ones present. So they do not interact with each other. There's lots of room in between each molecule or atom. They are not packed at all. They are not organized. Because they fill whatever container they're in, there is a high degree of compressibility that is present here. So they are highly compressible. Highly compressible. When we do think about the different phases that exist, we can have phase changes between substances. So here the box represents a solid. So this is a solid. We can go from a solid to a liquid by melting. So we can take a solid to a liquid by melting. We can go from a liquid and get it back to a solid by freezing. We can go from a liquid to a gas. You can take that liquid and evaporate it and get it to the gaseous state, or you can take that gas and condense it and get it to the liquid state. So you can have phase changes that are associated with going back and forth between these different substances. When you are looking at this, usually what's happening is in going from the more ordered structure to the less ordered structure, you're adding heat. You're increasing the temperature. In going from the less ordered structure to the more ordered structure, you're removing heat, or you're taking the temperature down. When we describe physical and chemical substances, we describe it in terms of properties. Now, a physical property is a property that a substance exhibits by itself. We also have physical and chemical changes that are associated with our substances. And I think these physical and chemical changes are best summarized in the following diagram. Here we see if you take a physical property or a physical substance. So the physical, it's the composition of a substance itself, and that doesn't change when you're changing something like phases. And you can describe the physical property, and we said that was the property observed without changing composition. So if I have water before and after a reaction, I can describe the physical properties of that water. I can describe the color and shape, the phase that it's in, the boiling point, the melting point. The physical changes that are associated, these are the changes that are observed without changing the composition of the substance. In physical changes, you have the same substance before and after. So what I mean by this is I have liquid water and then I have solid water. Both are water. I haven't changed the identity. What I've done is change the way it looks. So I've changed the physical state. So you're not, physical changes, same substance before and after. And that's going to be the defining characteristic of a physical change. Do you have the same substance when you're done as you did when you started? It may look different, but is it the same identity of substance? In terms of chemical, in chemical substances, we have a change occurring. So we said that the chemical properties were going to be the properties that a substance was showing when it was interacting with something else. Reactivity was something that we talked about. So reactivity of the substance, flammability, decomposition, how your substance is going to change into something else. So chemical changes, kind of the defining piece here, you have a different substance before and after. So I had used the water with physical change, and I said you can have liquid water and you can have gaseous water, but you still have water before and after. An example of a chemical change, if you take that water and you break it down into hydrogen and oxygen. At the beginning you had water, but you've decomposed it into different substances. So before you had water, at the end you have hydrogen and oxygen. Different substances at the end than what you had at the beginning. So you want to be able to define these key terms associated with chemistry. What is the study of chemistry? What is matter? What are the types of phases of matter that we have? And what are the types of properties and changes that matter undergoes?